Welcome back to a video edition of B is for Book Coach. I'm B, midwife of big ideas and book development partner for writers and non-writers alike. And for the next few minutes, you are my author. Don't worry, that doesn't commit you to anything more than what you're doing right in this moment. Because the best authors are simply people who show up as themselves, and for their readers. Today, we're making space for creative safety and collaboration with my friends Kim Kessler and Alice Sudlow at the novel Atelier. Okay, so the thing that I want to talk about with you guys specifically is I'm always talking about making space. And that's like, I'm kind of sticky on that right now. Make space, show up to space, create space, expansive space, specific space, all of that. And you two have been working on creating very, very, very intentional space lately. Specifically, a space for like mentorship, apprenticeship style, like kind of belly to belly work with authors. And you named it something really weird. So I want to start with what
Alice can
does
do that part. She pronounces it
Atelier,
better. Yeah.
Novel
Atelier, the
Atelier.
novel Atelier. What does that mean? And how do we say it correctly?
I'm drawing on my background in learning French in middle and high school and college, and then never speaking French for another like 15 years. But novel atelier, an atelier is a workshop. It's inspired by Renaissance Florence and the high intensity workshop mode of collaboration across all levels of mastery to apprentice and nurture new artisans into their craft, and really like it's so collaborative, it's so high touch, it's a space to really dig deep into the work together, and really bring back an apprenticeship model of craftsmanship.
Tell
Uh,
me,
just you using all those words. I'm like, stop flirting with me. Stop it. Stop it. Like deep work and
no, no.
collaborative and like all these things. I'm just like, I get so
Yeah.
just like giddy
Yeah.
about what we do.
Do that. So you said two things that caught my attention. Mastery across all levels of mastery, but then you also said new. Tell me about that balance between there's all levels of mastery and then it's also helping new people. Those tend to get siloed now.
Yes, yes. So the idea here, and I do, uh, in order to really back these ideas, I want to go do a deep dive study of Renaissance Florence and the whole apprenticeship model. But essentially, this idea that you've got these master craftsmen who are at the top of their craft in whatever field it is, whether it's, I mean, really, they knew all of the artistic fields. They knew
Renaissance,
sculpture, they knew
the idea,
painting.
right? To be
Yes,
like,
yes,
yeah.
yeah, everything.
hmm
And then they have um, they have artisans who've been in that atelier for years, learning underneath them and assisting on all of those works, so that you get like a giant fresco that has one person's name on it, but it really was this work where many, many people were contributing to it. And then all the way down to the newest level of like 11-year-old art apprentices coming in to learn the very basics of the craft, and starting with the most fundamental, but just like mixing paints kinds of being taught the fundamentals of how the craft works, and slowly working their way up to contributing more and more and more within those works. But this idea that this giant fresco can have all of these people collaborating on it, and it's not one single person, it is the like led by a master who's been doing this for 20 years or more, but it's got the contributions of many people at all levels who are all like developing their craft in it. This is where I'm like, I got to go study even more deeply into this,
Yeah.
because I feel like
hmm
I'm going to start describing my idea of Renaissance Florence
Mm.
rather than the truth. But this
Yeah.
model of mastery, of this model of mastery of someone who's been involved in this space for 20 plus years, combined with people who've been involved in this space for, 5 years, 10 years, who've got a project that they're really working on, who are really pursuing their own, they've got their skills, they're bringing in the door, they're pursuing their own work, and people who are new to this but passionate about it and who want to learn effectively from the ground up. Everyone kind of getting the exposure at all levels,
Yeah.
everyone bringing their strengths and collaborating in those strengths, and everyone's skills refining everyone else, and especially this like high touch passing down of the mastery across all of the levels, like allowing everyone to access the expertise and apply it to their works across all levels. That's like the heart of what this means when I think about novel atelier and writers.
I'm hearing the right. It's the Montessori model, right? For editing and writing and everything, right? We got, you got
Yeah.
so my sister, she's about 17 years younger than I am. And she went to Montessori for a little while. And so yeah, they would have like the 3-year-olds, the 4-year-olds, and the 5-year-olds all in the same class. Or they would have the 6, the 7, the 8, whatever. Like, and so you would get to practice being you were the youngest, and so you had all
Yeah.
these people to kind of like help you, and then you would be like in the middle, and so you have someone older and someone younger. The cat just jumped off my table and made the whole thing shake. We're not earthquake proof over here just yet. And then and then when you get to be you're the oldest one in the class, then you've been in there for a
Yeah.
minute, and now you're getting to contribute in a different way. And so I just I think it's the when we're looking at building skills in anything, right? Getting to try things from all those different angles, right? So it's a very talent code of us, right? To do this deep practice. I'm kind of hot for the talent code. It's kind of my favorite thing. But yeah, so this is that, and that's why the Renaissance was the Renaissance, because you have
Yeah.
people, you have okay, I don't really love the word hotbed of talent, but it's one of those anyway. But
Yeah.
that's what the Renaissance was. You have all these people who are
Yeah.
like lit up about taking back their own agency and like, defining the world around them, coming out of the dark ages, like whatever. It's like they have ignition, right? And then they get together in these spaces and they're belly to belly, as you say, right? And they're it's that all that iron sharpening iron, all of that. And they're just like pushing each other to be better and growing and all of that. And then as people gain skills, they have mastery over their own skills, and then rather than hoarding those skills and
Yeah.
working in isolation, they're actively like connecting and pouring back in and like helping the other people around them that also are like lit up and ignited with this passion to do that. And so that is right, it's this exponential um growth
Yeah.
of just like humanity doing what we do best, right? Which is, creating collaboratively.
Yeah.
Um, It's just
I think
so delightful.
that's such an interesting thing to like hold on to um from this, that the idea that in the Renaissance they're coming out of the Dark Ages. But I don't know that they knew they were coming out of the Dark Ages. I don't think they
Right.
knew that it was, maybe they knew and felt it at some point. There was like a tipping point that they realized it was the Renaissance. But like all they knew at the outset is just, we have to get together and do this. And
Hmm.
I think we think of the Dark Ages maybe because of the phrase Dark Ages as like the lights are down on everyone. But there were
Hmm.
scribes getting, I just learned this in something, that scribes were getting paid like a good salary. They were getting paid good wages to sit there in their church basements and paint little pretty paintings and like
Hmm.
continue like capturing and whatever. It wasn't that there wasn't information, it was that it was
Right.
kept in silo, isolated,
Hmm.
inaccessible from people. It wasn't that there wasn't art, it was just happening in approved channels. And
Hmm.
I think that there's been like cautions that we're tipping into a digital dark age right now, but I believe that we're there. I think
Hmm.
that the
Right.
algorithmic siloing of information, what's approved channels, and even if the approved is coming from everyone everyone wanting to create for status and for approval
Mm-hmm.
and trying to do the thing that will be the next bestseller, even if that's what our version of it looks like, and it doesn't necessarily all look like, state
Top down control.
action control.
Right. Yeah.
We're playing the game well enough that they don't
Yeah.
have to
We've
do those
opted
rigid
in. We're
controls.
creating it ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
there's this, I think we're in a digital dark age right now that all of our separation has created, that where everyone is operating in their own little bubbles and
Mm-hmm.
to the assumptions of what's going to eventually grant
Mm-hmm.
them access to the great
Mm-hmm.
beyond of whatever art should be. And especially in writing, that happens. Like we
Mm-hmm.
have this illusion of creating an isolation.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is the three of us didn't set out to create a Renaissance or an Atelier or anything
Right.
like that, but
But I mean,
weren't tired of
when you're born for
isolation.
something, right? Like,
But we were similarly tired of isolation, and
yes.
we just
Yes.
started Zooming all the time, specifically in the pandemic, but then it just kept going because we could not
Mm-hmm.
create any longer in isolation.
Yeah.
And what we found is that even though we're in, you guys are fiction, I'm nonfiction,
Mm-hmm.
you two have different strengths within fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like being in the space together and learning from each other helped us grow ourselves and grow our business,
Absolutely.
take care of our people better. So it kind of happens similarly. I'm like,
Because it's
I don't
just how
want to say
learning
that we're
happens.
Michelangelo in here, but like
I mean,
we
I
kind of
do.
are.
I'll say it, right? Like, because that's the thing. It's humans are extraordinary, right? Like, it's not just Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo or, whatever. Like, it's humans are extraordinary. And so if you can set up the conditions in which humans are able to safely stretch without pulling a muscle, as Brandon loves to say, right? Like, if you can set up those conditions, you'll thrive. Like, it's like that's how we're made. We're made to be communal. We're made to be collaborative, and we're made to grow and change. And like, it's the only way to like survive having consciousness, right? Is like we got to like find a way to be creative with it, or it's
Yeah.
like soul crushing. And so yeah, it's like anyone. It's that sort of that thing of like, you know, I don't know, like we. I guess I'm sure we all have like our own I don't know, maybe preset like how good we could get at something, right? Like I'm never gonna be able to dunk a basketball. Like it doesn't matter how much I like train, like there's gonna be some limitations. But I can get really good at anything that I like
Mhm.
put my mind to or like, put that I create an environment around. Like you can always grow and improve. And so if you bring that passion about something, about art, about a craft, about a specific story, and and you show up to it and you create an environment around it, like you can't fail in that instant. Like that's an irrelevant measurement, right? Like it's just like you just become the best version of yourself in that specific space. Like however good you're gonna get about something, like set up the conditions in order to do that thing. Um, yeah, it's just
I'm
so cool.
I'm I've started skating recently. You knew I was going to bring it
We
up at
knew,
some
yep.
point. Yep.
Oh, what's the timestamp? How long did it take for Alex to
It
bring up ice
was,
skating? Yeah.
I mean,
45
well,
seconds? Was it
45
45
seconds. Yeah.
seconds?
Mhm,
it's
mhm,
been there waiting since the
mhm.
Oh yeah.
beginning.
Yeah. So I was at my skating lessons on Saturday, and right after my skating lessons, the little teeny tiny hockey children have an hour-long lesson. So I watched the hockey children all doing their things, and like they're really cute. They'll like just fall on the ice and slide for 5 yards, and they're funny. But I'm watching them and thinking about how like if you want to optimize skill development, like if we want to like set out here to push to the maximum of human capacity, and we're like, what would it be if we could extract every possible ounce of potential out of a person? If you want to optimize for that, then sure, you start as an infant and you start like with every bit of training that these children are going through. But did those children choose that? Like, do they want that for? Are they going into that because it is fulfilling and exciting, and that's what they want to do, or are they doing that because someone told them that the The way you'll measure your success is when you win the Olympics. Like that's how
Hmm.
you'll know that your skating was worthwhile. You win the Olympics. And I think that, that's a really limiting view of skill
Hmm.
development and purpose, because most of us are not going to win the Olympics. That's just reality. And it's
And most of us
ridiculous to
aren't going to
say,
get to start as infants, right? Like,
yes, most of us aren't going to get to start as infants. And most of us don't find ourselves and our passions and our joy and our purpose and
right,
our goals and desires as
right.
infants. That's not how that works. So it's really not like that we were able to optimize from infants. It's that someone else optimized us for something that
Uh-huh.
they wanted us to do as
Right.
infants. And I think that that the this atelier model, this vision of collaborative work, is grounded in this belief that you don't have to have optimized. You don't have to have someone else have chosen to optimize for you that this is going to be the skill that you will develop from infancy. We can gather as adults in a collaborative
Hmm.
container and push boundaries that are amazing. And then when we come out the other side, like, who cares if you won an Olympic medal or not? Like, that's not the
Hmm.
point. The point is that you achieved something really magical in terms of
Hmm.
your own ability to grow, to be creative, to create something that can have impact on yourself and your readers. And like, we can do that at any age. We can do that
Hmm.
in any field.
Hmm.
Like let's go for it. Essentially, let's put
Hmm.
everything that we've got into it now. When it's passion driven, excitement driven, when it is the thing that you want to pursue, let's surround ourselves with
Hmm.
collaborators. Let's define success on our own terms, and let's see what we can create together, as
Hmm.
opposed to thinking this is valuable if I optimized from infancy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that measurement of we don't have to win an Olympic medal, I think leads into the next thing I want to call out here, which is mastery. So we've talked
Hmm.
about there being multiple levels, but with mastery being part of that, what does that mean? Because I'm seeing so many spaces that are made by like, I wrote a bestseller and then everyone asked me how I did it, and here's how I did it. Like
Hmm.
that feels like the Olympic medal version of
Hmm.
all of it. And it's
So,
fine. Those spaces can be good, but what else can mastery mean so that we know how to find those spaces as creators?
so the thing that comes to mind is one, specifically, we're talking about writing novels, right? So when we're talking about storytelling and we're talking about writing, um, so much of this is like there's a thing about storytelling that is just it's so cognitively ingrained in who we are as humans. So it's a really human skill, right? So it's interestingly like less specialized maybe than like other types of things, because it's literally every human. If you're alive and you're human, you have access to storytelling. Um and and so there's that aspect of like you can it's like you're already doing it, right? You're already doing it. And and then
Which I want to call out is a spiky point of view. Like that's
is
a point of
it?
view that not everyone's
Is
going to agree
it?
with.
Yes.
Yes, they're
Yes.
not going to because it's so hard to strip out the Olympic medal version of it
Right,
that
right,
you're going to
right.
say, because even you, there are times when you're talking about your own
Yeah.
creative work that I will be like, you have access to this. And you'll be like, bullshit, I do. I have no access to this right now. And I'll be like,
Right.
great, that's a story that you're telling
Right.
yourself.
It's like
That
I
is
don't have
access
access
to
to that to
storytelling.
this the answer to
Right.
whatever that story is, but there's always access to story. Like,
And this is something that you guys are bringing to your space. I bring it to mine. Like if you can,
hmm
you've communicated this idea before, let's find the way you've communicated it
yeah.
so that we can tap into that and find flow there. You guys do that also with your stories. Like let's just talk about it. And you were really conversation based in your collaborations,
hmm
even when
hmm
you're at what would be line level editing
Absolutely.
beginning to end.
hmm
It's connection based.
hmm
So you're helping people tap into that in a way that they wouldn't know that they have access to. And I think there's a lot of people that would immediately like self-select out to be like, I don't know who you're talking about has access to storytelling, but it's not
hmm
me
hmm
because you're thinking about story as something different. So
Right.
I just want to
Right.
name that for you because I know it's hard to see from the outside
Yeah.
in, like
Yeah.
what your
It
own
feels
point of
good.
view is. That's
It feels
weird.
good in my
That's a weird
body.
point of
Yeah.
view.
hmm Yes.
So everyone has access, so then that muddies it even more. We don't have to do
Right.
Olympics. It doesn't, you can define your
Right.
own success. Everyone has access to some kind of storytelling. So what are the masters in this scenario? Like tell me
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what makes you guys like do you feel like you're masters? Do you feel like you're like learning from them? Are you like where does this
So
land?
it goes back to this is like core human stuff. It's collaborative, right? It's not, it's I think that's the thing about, right? I learn by teaching, right? So like or trying to teach myself, explaining so like,
Hmm.
it's the thing of like it's why so much of what we do is talking out loud, right? It's like
Hmm.
it's just we're verbal processors or whatever. And so there's something about um when it comes to storytelling is automatically a two person gig, right?
Hmm.
You have the teller and you have the hearer, right? Like it's been that way since we developed this kind of like, if you think it's evolution, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
it's a
like
communication
it's a
technology.
that's it. It's communication and every living thing communicates in some way, right? We perceive, we process and understand and we communicate and we take action like that's the cognitive function loop that storytelling is, which is a thing your brain's always doing all the time. So so everyone has access to storytelling because everyone is trying to survive, right? Everyone needs, and we don't survive in isolation. Nothing does, right? Nothing survives in isolation. And so we're having to perceive our world around us and we're having to understand what that means and take action and communicate and all of those things. And so when it comes to the atelier and it comes to like writing your novel or writing your book or your TED talk or whatever it is, like whatever the idea is, like you're like, I have this thing that's bubbled up in me that I need to share with someone else, not just me. I can't just live in my head or in one of my 85 notebooks. Like it has to like go out. Then that's the thing that we're helping people do. We're helping people communicate the thing that's already in them in a way that can cross the divide between their brain and our brain, right? And so we get to iterate. We get to collaborate and iterate, and it's emergent, right? It's we're discovering it. We get to rely on all these amazing base principles that we know, right? So like if we think about like Alice and the ice skating, right? We're she's operating on some really interesting things. One, we're on planet Earth, and therefore gravity is whatever, right? One. I think we measure everything as like 1G, right? Like you're on Earth, it's 1G. So she's got that. She's dealing with gravity. She's dealing with her own physical body, right? And like, muscle and like how, all the things that a human body does. And she's on a blade, right? A really sharp knife on a frictionless, basically, surface. So we're taking gravity, your own like muscle, and we're putting you on a razor blade on ice. And so these are interesting forces in which to deal with. And so it's like, okay, this is what we're working with. How does one navigate ice skate? Like, how does one navigate this kind of very strange thing? And because Alice is an excellent learner, um, she's taking lessons, right?
Hmm.
She's not out there on her own just skating to like, I mean, and you
Hmm.
can.
Well,
It's not,
that's what I was thinking
it's
is like
not bad.
that's where
It's
the
just,
layers start to get clear is that we
yes.
could if
What do
we
you
could
want?
all go out
Yeah.
together, you and I could go take our kids and we could go try an ice skate and we would fall a lot and
Hmm.
shuffle a lot and it would be more ice skating than we are currently doing in this moment. It would be
Yes.
not zero ice skating.
Right.
Would be making our way through. And I feel like that
Yes.
feels like a lot of these writer groups
Hmm.
that happen. I have feelings about those being created unsupervised or created to be like, now give each other feedback because you and I can guess at like, well, I don't think that's how you're supposed to stand. And like, I'm doing it over here. And like, we
Right.
can guess at how to help each other and probably fall a little less, but there's going to be a limitation to how far we can go. And
Yeah.
then Alice could come teach us when she comes to visit in the
Hmm.
fall. Like, she'll come and be like, here's what I know, and she'll teach us, and it will be a little bit more than we could have gotten
Yes.
before.
Hmm.
And but that's still not the same as someone who's been skating for 5 years, not the same as someone who's been skating for 10 years, not the same as someone who's been like learning how to teach skating, like
Right.
that's a
Hmm.
Yes,
another thing
exactly.
entirely.
Right.
And
Coaching is different than competing, right? Sorry, go
Right.
ahead,
the
Alice.
other demographic that I want to throw in here, having watched a lot of people at public skates, you can pretty easily tell who the people are who've never been on the ice before or who are coming back after, skated once 5 years ago and now they're back on the ice in rental skates figuring it out. Um, and there are lots of those people at public skates, and they kind of fall into two categories. There are the people who are there, no idea what they're doing at the beginning, and by the end, they still have no idea what they're doing, and they are doing the same amount of like falling and laughing and giggling, and they're having fun on the ice, but they are just like present, not in any way attempting to build anything. And then there are other people who walk on, and I can tell they've never had lessons before, but I can also tell that they are here determined to figure out how to skate. And when they walk onto the ice, they're flopping around and don't know what they're doing. But when they walk off of the ice 2 hours later, they have slightly more balance. Like they have not become master skaters. They have not even learned all of the skills that they would have learned in a 20-minute lesson with a coach, but they tried intentionally to build a skill, and they have more skill than the people who just walked onto the ice and then, I don't know what their expectations are. If they defined success as had fun and did not experience significant injury, they did it, like that's great. If they define success as could skate better when they left than when they arrived, they did not succeed because they are doing the same thing at the end that they were at the beginning. And you don't just magically gain the skill from being present on the ice. There's an effortful and an intentionality that goes into it. So, like you'll progress much faster with coaching than without. You can progress without coaching. You can take yourself from nothing to something, but you would
Hmm.
have to intentionally try.
Hmm.
Um,
And even
and the,
that has a limitation, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
Well,
yeah,
so the thing that I want to call out next is there's two things that came up in those descriptions. One was the levels of progress that can happen based on who is teaching you, coaching you, and how. And the other thing is the environment itself and what we're allowing for and how we're teaching and creating those measurements of success and being on the ice with you versus a YouTube video, like how
Hmm.
close to in it are they with
Hmm.
us? That part seems to be really, really significant because all of our background, like we have collectively, multiple of us have trained in StoryGrid, multiple of us have trained in Author Accelerator. Multiple of us have trained in multidisciplinary things. We have Myers-Briggs and we have Enneagram. I've got doula training. Like we have this like multi-background situation happening. We've trained from a lot of places and we've learned a lot of things and we're all independent effectively.
Hmm.
Alice, you certified at Author Accelerator.
yep,
We love Jenny and the things that she's doing specifically for coaching. But because that's just coaching, that is not your flagship thing that you offer.
yep,
You have a combination of coaching, teaching, belly to belly editing, collaboration, this like mishmash atelier space
Hmm.
that couldn't fall under just the one umbrella. So we've all got this like background. I didn't stay doula. We didn't stay story grid. Like none of us have
Hmm.
stayed in those spaces that we trained in and we're bringing it all like to the ice, so to speak.
Hmm.
And that has shaped, I think, the way you guys work in the atelier and the way I work with my people.
Hmm.
Um, with with my laptop battery about to die, and so this conversation about to end, I think that's what I'd like to hear from each of you is how can we look for not only the skill, because it's easy to look for the credentials to be like,
Yeah.
where all have you trained and certified and how many bestsellers do you have and like those kinds of on the surface certifications are the stand-in for you are probably going to
Hmm.
be a master and a good teacher for me. Um, but how do we find that other element of this
Hmm.
is actually going to be a good space for me to
Hmm.
learn and grow and
Hmm.
break out of the dark ages?
So the thing that that is really important to me and is about finding finding the person that actually communicates the way you need to hear it and a place that you feel safe enough to communicate your stuff, right? So that just finding that nervous system safety is really, 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 really important when it comes to um growing, learning anything. And it's, we need an edge, right? We need to be on a razor's edge, an ice skating edge, if you will. But because that's where we're going to get, it's like the tension. We have to hold the tension between nervous system safety and that ignition to put us at the edge of our skill set so that we can deep practice, right? And we are like, I'm the person going out on the ice and I'm being intentional, but I'm still like, I only have my own feedback loop, right? So it's like if I'm safe enough to be here and I'm like excited to do a thing and I'm going for it. And then if you have someone who has who is good at observing and knowing what they're looking for and then communicating that back to you, like that is the other half of that thing. And so that way you can be like, okay, I'm out here and I'm doing my thing. And then someone else is going, okay, Alice, you're going to need to fill in my metaphor here for me because I'm out. I haven't ice
Swizzle.
skated since I was 11,
Swizzle.
but yeah, toes in,
You
whatever.
still
Like,
have to swizzle.
Yes,
right?
all the sprizzles.
Right? And so there's a thing in the talent code so that those three pillars, right, are ignition, deep practice, and master coaching, right? So it's the idea of you want a thing and it matters to you and your nervous system lights up kind of like survival, like this matters. And it kicks us in gear, right? Like me before a deadline. We're just like, boom, we're here to do a thing. And then deep practice, right, is that intentional, right? I'm at the edge of my skill set. I'm not doing something, it's not easy. And so it's not my body can't like just chill out. Like it has to like show up to it. So it needs to be challenging, it needs to be new, it needs to be like those kinds of things. But then again, it's like I could be in that. I'm showing up with the fullness of what I have present to it, but I can't observe myself. I can only
Right.
be in it. And so you have to get that outside perspective of someone who isn't just like, yay, good job, right? Like, who isn't just watching you do it and cheering you on. We need that person, but that person's going to keep the ignition going, right? So that's great, but they're not necessarily going to be able to help me with my deep practice, right? And
Right.
so having a person who can go, okay, I know I have done the skill that you have, and I've studied it, I understand it, and I know how to tell you to give you the right piece of feedback that you need. I don't have to just cheer for you, and I don't have to like get it, drop and give me 20. Like we don't, you just go in and go swizzle,
Yeah, because the master
remind you the thing you
coaching,
already know. You're like, oh yeah, swizzling, like I don't know what swizzling is.
but the
Tell me later. But
challenge, the push and the challenge in the deep practice doesn't have to negate the safety. Like you can still be
Yes.
psychologically
oh,
safe.
this is it. This
Yes.
is
You
it
have
right
to
now.
be.
What's the timestamp? How long did it take us to say that? This is the thing. I think this is the thing that just is fundamentally so different about everything that we're all doing. But the thing that we really feel in Novel Atelier is that safety, yes, you do not have to negate the safety. And in fact, if you negate the safety, you negate the growth. Like you can't, your body cannot multitask, right? So I cannot be trying to like protect myself and survive while learning a new skill set. Like you have totally fucked up the optimization at that point. Like it is just not going to happen. And so if you have to find the tension. It's that sweet spot. It's that the narrow road, Schrodinger's cat of we are both alive and dead and safe and not safe at the same time, and we're on that edge and we're being present to it. We're bringing in everything that we
Mhm.
can, right? And then we have someone who is looking out for our best interest, understands what we want, knows what our goals are, knows what we're bringing in the door, knows that I had a very terrible skating accident as a child, whatever. Like they know your trauma, right? To
Yep.
whatever degree is useful to help you navigate your own nervous system as you're trying to grow and learn this skill. And that tension, right? That tension of being on a frictionless surface with 1G gravity, right? And we can make
Mhm.
beautiful Alyssa Liu like art for the passion of doing it, right? And like we'll win gold medals, but that wasn't the point, right?
Right.
Like, and we can
And
just feel great about it.
she could not win the Olympic
Yep.
gold when she was not in the space of psychological
Yep.
safety. She was
Yes.
in a lack of
Yes.
psychological safety for a long, long time. And she built a lot of technical, practical skills, and she could not win the gold medal, and she could not form memories that were not just like blocked out by trauma because it was a space that only focused on the skill and did not focus on her psychological safety.
That part. That part. I just had this conversation with somebody this last week where like we were talking about that idea of skill first. The question was, when are we going to learn proper scenes in nonfiction? And I was like, this is how we do it. Like this we're building it, we're growing into it. We're gonna find it from these layers. And I thought about the line I have in the workbook I had just read about how this is like Shrek saying sh ogres are like onions. They have layers. And Donkey really wanted it to be a cooler metaphor of layers. And he's like, no, it's onions. And I'm like, yeah, because onions grow from underground and they put on layer after layer after layer underground. And there's stuff sprouting. There's visible growth that you can see. There's even beautiful flowers above ground. But the thing that we want is happening from the inside out, layer by layer by layer. And when we try to like look at an onion, and go, onions are delicious. How does one make onions? Well, there's this papery layer on the outside. I think we should
Ew.
figure out how to make the papery layer and then we make the other. Like, no, that's not how you get an onion.
Right.
Even if you get the perfect paper consistency on the outside, you will still not end up with an onion because that's not how onions grow.
Right.
So that feels like that same kind of skill first
Yeah.
situation where it's like trying to look at the outside and make that skill happen and make it be perfect. If you don't have
Hmm.
a core, if you haven't grown into that space, then whatever it is that looks perfect, I mean, Alyssa looked like she was really skilled. She was really skilled, but she didn't have that growth that could bring her into that space. So,
Hmm.
one more thing, like Alice, I'm going to throw it to you. This is like the last
Hmm.
thing I have space for on my stupid laptop battery.
Mm.
Tell me, yeah, what are we looking for in those spaces when we want to grow like an onion as a creator?
Oh, yeah, I'm sitting here pondering, going, this is such a deep, big, challenging question. And I'm like cycling through, okay, well, would this guarantee it? No, this doesn't guarantee it. What did this guarantee it? So I think there are factors, and it's difficult to always see from the outside whether those factors are present. So to some degree, you kind of have to trust. You have to test and validate and see what the experience is once you get onto the inside. But I think some things that we're looking for here, are for sure, the psychological safety. I think that the the thing that I keep coming back to is that their goal for the goal they're trying to get to is a goal that you want to go towards, which is why we talk so much in Novel Atelier about what we're aiming towards when we're not aiming towards the gold medal. Like, it's really important to me that our writers understand when they walk in the door that we are not out here aiming to get them best-selling novels, even though I understand why they want that goal, and that's a valid goal. But if that is specifically the goal that you're aiming for, that's not what we're optimizing for. And though, so we're going to be disappointing. But the thing I'm thinking about in the optimization, everything that Kim said about the idea of communication, but specifically the way I think about it is your story that you've written creating the impact on your readers that you wanted it to have? Are they experiencing the emotional experience that you wanted them to have? Are they experiencing the journey you wanted them to go through? Like, I've got books that I've cried at, I've got books that I've laughed at, I've got books that I just feel amazed at. And those strong reactions in the reader are what we're aiming to create in Atelier. So if your goal is to create a book that really deeply resonates with readers and has a strong emotional impact on them, that's what we are optimizing for in Novel Atelier. So that's like, if your goals align, then that's a good fit. If your goals don't align, then it's not a good fit. The psychological safety piece is huge. And I think, ask me your question one more time, Brandon, so that I can really just like line up my thoughts here.
I think it was something to the effect of what are we looking for in those spaces as creators when we
Yeah,
want to grow?
yeah. We are looking for um, the place that's aligned with our goal, creates psychological safety, and I would say has tools and knowledge, not coming
Yeah,
in from nothing, because you can get a lot of beta reader feedback and they'll be
yeah.
very enthusiastic and they'll tell you everything that they can see in your novel, and it's going to be a heck of a lot, and it's going to be overwhelming, and it's going to be well intentioned but very likely not useful. So someone who is has knowledge and background and something that they're basing it off of, not just like I've read a lot of books in my life and here's my gut feeling, which is tricky in this industry. There's so much of that. Like that's such a standard in this industry.
And it's not incorrect in saying that they're picking something up, but again, that's not what makes the best coach or the for that mastery feedback, because them knowing it and then being able to communicate it back to you specifically so that you can actually make a change. Those are different skill sets that they have. So they might be absolutely right, but it's not usul to me if I can't hear them, right?
Your email about the one skating routine earlier this year, Alice, when you were like, I loved this, and then this was weird, and like you had the right intuition and no language to be able to specifically, like you couldn't have coached that skater in any way meaningfully afterward. So similarly, the intuition can be right, and you can also, there can be no real way of pointing you in the right direction, because sometimes things that look like they're skill or surface level issues are really deep core stuff. And it takes someone seen a lot of repetitions. And I think I'm going to add to this, I think multidisciplinary is really important, like having, and I'm biased, obviously, but like, I think it's really important because if you're drinking the Kool-Aid of one formula forever, you see one lens forever. Like that's the thing that you see. And when you've done like I can see a transition coming from a mile away from the birth training. And I can tell when we're dealing with something that is a story theory thing versus a core life transition thing. And I can spot it and we can move in the right direction. And that comes from being multidisciplinary.
I think it comes back to just that because it's writing and because it's human communication, it is such a variable skill anyway. So like you need to be able to have that the perspective of you need someone, the multidisciplinary person is bringing storytelling from all kinds of different walks of life and communicating that process versus like if I want to play violin, like it's a different kind of skill that's more I forget. You know what I mean? It's much more sharper in that way versus variable.
Yeah. It's a single pathway of build these specific incremental skills, one on top of the other. Ice skating is like that too in the structure of ice skating lessons. Whereas writing, you can come in it from any direction and you can focus in any area and you can build skills in any kind of combination of ways. There's no one right pathway to build up the skill of writing. The other thing about in terms of whether someone has the ability to coach you through or express like what the gap is between, like, how do you go from this intuitive understanding that this isn't quite right to this is the change to make? The other thing with beta readers or people who are operating on intuition is a lot of times they struggle to filter the layers and tiers of feedback. So they'll give you everything from surface level to depth all at once. And they'll think that things that are really deep are actually like fairly easy, quick changes. But they'll also think that things that are surface level and don't matter are really crucial things that you need to solve right now. Like you've got to get these darn commas in order. You do not have to get the darn commas in order if we don't know what the point of the story is. That's so they'll not be able to filter this hierarchy of feedback. I think the other thing that I'll add to this last thing is as much as you need the person that you're working with to be pursuing a goal that you also want to achieve. You also need the person you're working with to find out what your goal is and help you pursue that goal specifically. Like your goal needs to fall under the umbrella of the things that person does. Because it's not helpful for you to be like, I want to do XYZ. And they're like, cool, I specialize in ABC. So like XYZ is super cool, but I don't go there. Let me see if we can shift this into ABC. We don't need to change your goal to something else, but we do need the person to understand what your goal is so that they can help you pursue that thing specifically. And that's where in Atelier, we spend so much time at the beginning really drilling down really super personally with each individual into why are you writing this story? What matters about this story to you? What are we aiming to create here, knowing that the thing that we're going for is the story that has the most powerful impact on the reader in the way that the writer wants to impact them. But we need then to figure out what impact does the writer want to have? Why do they want to have that impact? What alternate versions have we considered and discarded? And why did we consider and discard those things? Why are they not the impact that that writer wants to have? So that we can be making sure that we are pursuing the writer's goal under the umbrella of this is the type of goal that this person is an expert at coaching you towards in a space of psychological safety and with an ability to filter through all of the vast amounts of feedback that can be given to select what you actually need to work on, and then give you specific progressions of how to close the gap so that it's not just like, great, this wasn't right, fix it. It is, here are some things and tools and strategies and ways that you can approach fixing it. And you can try a bunch of them. And the ones that don't work, you toss them away, but we've got more if those don't work. So
Yeah.
there we go.
Amazing. I love it. I'm down to 1% battery. I feel like we did an amazing job holding to this. I have to go now figure out what I'm going to do the rest of the day. I'll put in outros, all of those things. Could we like slide in one line, one final parting word of encouragement to creators of all shapes and sizes in this digital dark age? What would you say? So fast.
Follow your instinct, right? So your intuition is true. Like, so if you care about something, go find other people who also care about that thing, and then find the other people who also care about that thing and build your own little Montessori. You know what I mean? Like, get your people, surround yourself with those people. And then
Mm-hmm.
bring you guys in as master experts to help
like
add that layer.
Get in here.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Alice, what do we have?
This matters. This is so crucial. This is core to human experience. This is how we stay alive. Like at any stage of life, this is how we live.
Hey, thanks for creating this space with us today. Whether or not you're ready to dive into writing just yet, remember that the best authors show up fully just as they are. That's all it takes, and you're already doing it. Be sure to subscribe on Substack or wherever you listen to podcasts or watch videos. And when more of your book is ready to emerge, the space we made today will be here waiting for you. And so will I.